wanted to talk really
Mhm.
about drumming as a career and
Yes,
how that's changed for both of us,
sure.
I expect.
Yes, definitely. And it's that and imposter syndrome and stuff like that, which you get as you grow up, and have this kind of career. Because it's, um, but, kind of like we chatted about a little bit, and I've had this discussion with other peoples. We all have that idea. Like we start playing drums. I'll give you, like my son, you know, he's 12. And he's been hitting it hard now, like 3, 4 hours a day. And he's ready to start an Instagram page. And I was gonna always wait for him to do it. And he's picturing himself in stadiums. Trust me, like when you like he finally got that bug where he's been around this. And just like we did, and you see a career as being arenas and stadiums and theaters, or like little noodle cups that you buy for, like whatever, in extreme poverty. And you basically have extreme poverty until you become successful and famous. And and if not, then you give up when you hit like 30 or 35, and you go do something else. And it's not like that, it's just not. So for everyone watching, or listening, it's the majority of musicians, professional musicians, are somewhere in the middle class. They're not all wealthy. Rock stars are wealthy, you know. Adele is wealthy, like Pink is wealthy. The people playing for them are not multimillionaires unless they did something besides just their drumming or guitar playing. So,
Exactly that. And there's just so many options for anyone, as you said, who might be watching and thinks, oh, I'd really like to make drumming a career. It doesn't just have to be A to B. And it most of the time isn't. It's not, oh, I'm going to join this famous band. It's anything in between, like teaching. And now with social media, there are a lot of more options.
right.
But that's not to say that it's going to be easy either. And I think the common thread with all of this is as long as you're working hard and you're being consistent, you can take it where you want to go.
Right. Right. And again, I think everyone should shoot. If you start playing, you know, um, just like for my students, like I know who really wants it. There are some students who just do this and just, they love it and they're good. And then I have students who are really shooting for, and I want them. I think everyone should chase their dream. But a conversation I will have with them as well as their parents, because parents are sometimes concerned. I think my own dad went up to Jim Chapin once and said, is he like, I don't know, like, is he that good? And Jim was like, don't, like, he said, like, can he have a career? And I think I was 16, and Jim said, he already has a career. Like, he just said, he's gonna be fine, just let him, because I have two older brothers, one's a doctor and one's a lawyer. I'm the youngest, and
Oh,
and my
mate.
parents didn't come from this type of background. My dad did finance and international banking and stuff, and my mom didn't. So of course there's that concern, but I remember, and my dad's been gone a long time, but like he was able to see me have a career, pay my own way in life, and be able to buy a house and cars, and stuff like that through drumming. So but it's that you go for things, and a lot of things just pop up that you don't like. Tell me something that happened with you. I mean, even what you're doing right now, like with your camp, like one or two things that you didn't see on the radar 15 years ago that you're doing, or 20 years ago that you're doing now, that literally bring you joy, and are cool,
Well, that's it. It's like I didn't even know, and I think that's one of the most beautiful and like mysterious things about life is I didn't even know that I would be doing this, and it was just a chance conversation with a drummer called Karen Wolf. I think you do you know Karen?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
And it was that conversation that I just hit me in the face of, whoa, she's doing women drum camps. Why is that not in the UK? Let me have a look. Oh, there's none. Then let me do it. Let me take it upon myself to do that. And whilst it was terrifying, and we can talk about imposter syndrome in a minute, but it's been the greatest joy ever. that I didn't even know could be done and could be, oh, I can make some money from this if I'm smart and if I do it right, and it's more than that. It's just purpose. It's just gives me so much purpose and joy, the feeling like I might have actually helped someone. It's incredible. And that was just one conversation.
Sure. Yeah, and that's it. I feel lucky, to grow up studying with like Don Famiello, okay, who, when I met him, he was driving this old, junky, vomit yellow car. Like he wasn't wealthy. He really was. He was doing clinics, come on, like locally around New York and stuff like that, and started traveling. So I was like 16 when I think I took my first lesson with him. But to watch him build a career, to listen to Andy Zildjian, the CEO of Sabian Symbols, and his father Robert started. So like when he went over to Sabian, had switched over to Sabian, or was in the process of it, Andy tells a story about, well, it's not like, who does he play? Like, so doing clinics, it was like, his dad was like, well, who does he play with? Because any clinics before that was always like, if you had Billy Cobham or, Louis Belson or any of these people, his dad was like, well, and he's like, well, no one, he does these clinics, but you got to see him. Like, he's really good So I was, able to watch somebody build his career, okay? And then same thing, without a big gig, buy a house, buy a nicer car, like have children, take care, on a very high level. And I mean, that's only one instance. I was able to see a lot of people all of a sudden, that were able to, and it's not just drum clinics, it's whatever, taking care of themselves, that there is, and we'll get to, there's the other side of that people maybe hold on to too long, without branching out. But having somebody like as a mentor, having discussions when I was pretty young about careers, getting involved in teaching, like going off to Berkeley and coming back to New York and immediately starting teaching with those guys. Like, I'd be in one room and Don would be in another room, Jim Chape would be in another room. There's all these other teachers there. I had that day job, I didn't look at it as a day job because it was awesome, but it is, like, if I didn't do that, I mean, I don't know, would I sell insurance or be an accountant? Maybe, like, I would have done something, but that was my day job and something I'm passionate about. I'm quite fortunate. But there are plenty of things that happened along my path that I never saw coming, like not in a million years, And like you said, it could be that one conversation, and then, it can be like what overrode, if there was been any procrastination in your life, what made you take action? Because I'm sure we all have these great plans and then they stay on paper or a little note on our phone, or, your book. Look at that. Like, how long, I mean, something had to, like, I'm doing it, and like one day, and just like really start.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because I was just joking with my friend about this because she was saying when we were at college together, I had a bad habit of maybe not being the most prepared and not finishing stuff. So I was that person of all the ideas,
Like, yes.
yeah, all the ideas for
Yeah.
days,
Mhm.
but actually following through, not so much.com. It's just I found a billion things to get in the way, or actually, what I discovered is really worrying and being scared that
Mhm.
I'd be rejected,
Sure.
or that, someone would go, you think you're all that, and all of this stuff was uncovered. But
Right, which,
I,
which I'll just interject, that's that imposter syndrome. Like, why would
yeah,
anybody buy a book from me? Why would anybody
yeah,
show up to a drum camp? I remember doing clinic, I'm still like this. If I do a clinic, I'm like, who's gonna come to see Dave Stark? Like, who's gonna,
yeah.
I mean, but it's funny, like, I was just at PASIC, and one of the new artist relations assistants from, for Yamaha was like, let's grab coffee. And she's like, everybody knows you. Like, but I don't see, I mean, like, we build our reputations, we don't own it. We live our lives and try to be good people if we can. And realize not everyone's not going to like, but there are other people that see us differently than we might see ourselves, and yes, you can write a book and literally just go, why would anyone? So that keeps you like, why am I going to start a camp and set this stuff up and me and one other person, you know, chit chat and play, or whatever, so it,
A 100%. I thought all
yeah.
those things. I just thought, no one's gonna come. What do I do? And then you're like, you know what? It's okay. It's a learning thing, and you find a way through it, and you learn loads of stuff, and you're better off trying than never doing the thing, I think.
Sure, sure. But it is, looking back and as we get older, but part of that procrastination is that little part of why bother? Like you have this great idea and just be like, yeah, but I'm Dave Stark. I'm not Steve Gadd. Like Steve Gadd's going to put out a book. It's going to sell. And like, put your name on. But again, we do have, some influence, and we just have to be ourselves. Everything I always tell a student whenever they're auditioning for a scholarship or anything, be it PAS or college, or they're making a little bit, I'm like, I watch videos when people want to play a PAS or something. And when I tell other students, I'm like, be yourself. Don't try, like I want to know, who is Tim? Who, like, I've never seen this name before. And I've come across like, wow, or I might hear somebody's name, but I don't really know him too well. Or, and there's a lot of times when I'm off, I'm like, wow, like, where has this person been on my radar? There's quite a few people like that. I mean, where they're just being their authentic selves and getting to know them. And now I want to know more, there are people I met at PASIC when I was like face to face for the first time. I'm like, I'm a fan. Like I love what you do, So it's this belief kind of that we have to override, in ourselves to push on
Yes.
through.
I think you messaged me the other day saying something about like pushing the button to go, to just do it.
Yeah,
And I just thought, yes, you so get it. And it's one of those things where there were so many times with the book that I just thought, I'm not a good writer. Who am I to write a book? Da 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 da. No one knows who I am. I
right,
am all of these old like beliefs, and then I
right,
just had to like shut them away and go, you know
sure,
what? I just do it. You're not pretending
right,
to be anyone else but yourself.
right,
And then if I do it, it might help someone else do the same thing because I'll go, well, she's done it. I can do
sure.
it.
Right. No, sure. I've been sitting on my book stuff for 20 something years. And if anything, I'm trying to edit it down to something that's, like I spoke to one person, like, this is almost 2 volumes. And I'm like, well, I don't want to start with like two, and again, it's now it's like restructuring everything because even when I teach, I've changed the way I teach
Mm.
a lot, like a real lot, and I talked to a lot of people about this recently, where everything used to, like, I taught the way I was first taught, and I don't teach little kids anymore. But so it was like, okay, this week we're going to do these rudiments, and we're going to do page 16 in this book, and page 24 in this book, and this one, and we're going to do Jim Chapin book, and you have this in syncopation. Okay, but I never really talked like, how do you practice? Like, this
Mhm.
is because I was told you should practice an hour a day. So when I first started teaching, I would just tell every single student, you should try to find the time to practice an hour a day. Here's what you practice because you have these pages. I didn't tell them how to focus, and sometimes 2 to 5 minutes of some very focused things with,
Yes.
just on this one little issue will get you a lot longer than that hour of wasting time. Because I will be honest for everyone listening, if my lesson, I started once a week, then I did twice a week. So if my lesson was on a Thursday, Wednesday, I spent 15, 20 minutes practicing, and all week long, I played 4, 6, 8 hours a day, just playing tunes, and putting on Rush and putting on Led Zeppelin and whatever I'm missing. I'll be honest about that. I mean, I was always had sticks in my hand, working on my hands and stuff. But it wasn't until I really started doing like molar and hand and technique, but that was, now I was learning to like that little microeconomics of focusing on what needed work. But the books were, some of them were easy, some of them were hard. The Jim Chapin book's hard for everyone,
Mm.
and I didn't do that with him. I did it with teacher before him, but it was like, you know, how do you practice? So there's this evolution of what I do and what I do with students, and I've never a harsh teacher at all to anyone. But if somebody's hung up on something, I've become the type of teacher that goes, you know what? Unless we really need to get this, like they need it for jazz band or they need it for something that they're doing, a little recording project. I'm like, there are a billion things for us to work on and for you to work on, and we can come back. And if you never get it, that's cool. Get the other, you know, 428 million things down and you'll be fine without that one. But no one's hired me for a polka gig because I suck at it. That's not my thing. But what I mean. Like I try to just say it's okay. We can come. There's plenty of things, and then we'll come back to something 6 months later, and things have changed and they've pivoted, or maybe the thought process about it. Maybe they just they feel inside like just like you, like I got to start my book. Like
Yes.
they like I got to come back to this. But so yeah, and a lot of this relates to careers and even keeping one and growing. And there are things that just like that I was talking about in my own career. So if you go to like a UK drum show and you see a bunch of kids wailing around, on drum sets, and just like PASIC was so noisy, everybody was losing their voices because we talk louder. You're trying to have a conversation with somebody and there's just vibration just getting louder and louder, and it's like everywhere, so you're having these, like, even if you're watching an artist play and somebody next to you, you're trying to soft speak, but you start losing your voice from talking louder or the way we don't normally talk. But not my very first NAMM show, because I went young, but one of my very first NAMM shows, I went and there was the company D-Drum. Okay, and this is for careers and talking about careers, things you don't see coming. So D-Drum, which people might know now because the company's still out there, was not that. The red Nord keyboards, okay, made by a
Yeah.
company called Clavia in Sweden. So they actually started as D-Drum, okay? The chief engineer was actually a keyboard player, but they made very high-end digital electronic e-drum sets and triggering systems. And Jim Chapin just seemed to know those guys because he knew everybody. So I was out in California at the NAMM show. I was 21 or 22. Like a lot of things happened at 22 for some reason. So he walks me up, and this is a learning experience because I've tried to do this for others. But he walked me up to the owners. Their names were Bengt and Magnus. Bengt lived in Sweden or ran the Swedish part of the company, and Magnus was in the U.S. in the U.S. office. And he walked me up and he's like, "This is one of my students, Dave Stark. You got to hear him play." So they're just all looking around at me, and I sit down with this electronic kit, and 21 or 22-year-old me did my thing and tried to be Dave Weckl or something, but whatever it was. But the guys were like, "You sound great," and then he gave me his card. And I remember being all professional then, and I had started teaching. I had my own little business cards. And a week later, I get a call from Magnus he was in the office in Stratford, Connecticut. I was living in New York. And he's like, "You come up and see me next week." And we pick a day and time, and I go up there, and we go out to lunch, and we're just talking about what I do. And he's like, "Well, you play wonderfully. I'd like to work with you, and we'd like to offer you an endorsement, and we'd like you to do some clinics for us here in the States." Now I know nothing about these, like programming this stuff, and I leave, and I have this Volvo station wagon, and I drive away with this expensive electronic drum set, and I open up the manual, and it's like horrible translation from Swedish to English. So I just start messing with it, and I booked the clinic. So the first clinic they booked me for a couple months later is in New York City. It's at SIR Studios, a big sound stage, and it's like Chad Wackerman from Zappa, Terry Bozzio, I don't even remember, like all these big art, and me. And I bring my band, like playing fusion and stuff like that. But little by little, like I went to Sweden, so they sent me to Stockholm, and I learn about this stuff. And I'm not even looking at this as part of a career. This is just some cool drum set I have. So now they're paying me money. He's like we have another meeting and they're gonna pay me money because they want me to be able to answer questions for artists. So like a week or two goes by, and the first thing I get a call at my house, we need you to call Kenny Aronoff. He's got one of these, and this is like a new sampling brain they have, and he's trying to upload samples, and he's in Bloomington, Indiana, and this thing's crashing. It's not. They don't know what they're doing. Like same thing. It's like bad translation. And I'm just messing with this stuff. And it's like, okay. So now the next thing you know, I'm on the phone with Kenny, and then it was like with Jonathan Moffat, who happened to be touring with Madonna at the time, from Jackson. And I'm not doing this to name drop, but it was like, it led all the way to Dave Weckl, who I knew, like going to his house and sitting there and doing triggering stuff with Dave, and getting paid his salary. And I still, it has to be like now, looking in the rearview mirror, I didn't see it a part of my career. I just saw it was cool to be doing some clinics for them and travel and work with these people. But you look back and you go, wow, this thing wasn't on my radar. And it was one introduction of a teacher of mine who walked me up to some people,
Yeah.
and it led my part of my career in a whole different direction. I never would have seen it coming. I got to do some really cool stuff. I mean, other endorsements and stuff followed or whatever, but it was, you know, um, like we don't know, and like what's in store. So like all these kids out there, my students, they're all the girls and guys that we see now growing up and getting better and better and better. Some stuff like this is going to happen. And the biggest life lesson I learned, and this is like what Dom and Jim did for me. I open up every door for everyone that's deserving. I will make every contact, because if I know a lot of people in the industry, and I do, not even the companies I deal with, I don't care what company, I will make the introductions. I will reach out to the person on their behalf because people did it for me. I didn't do this alone. I didn't, I am not, I practiced, I worked hard,
Yeah.
but people that were in positions within the industry that had great influence opened up doors for me. Dave Weckl opened up doors for me. He did some things I never found out about until later in life that he just went ahead and did. I got a zillion endorsement because stuff like that because he
Oh,
was with them at the time. But like I said, he was in a position of influence to say, hey man, this is guy Dave Stark,
yeah.
and we all need to do that. Anything that we can do for those that are deserving. It's
Definitely.
forget how many gigs did you get? Do you just go to how'd you get the Penelope's gig? I have no idea.
Oh, you know what? That was a really random one. Usually it's
Okay,
from someone who knows someone who knows someone, but this
okay,
one
right,
was an online thing, and then I went to audition, and then that was
okay.
it. But
Well,
normally it's
but
someone who knows someone who knows someone.
right. But that's exactly it. So I see drummers always just like there's like twofold of like I've heard people say, well, the drummers aren't going to get you a gig. That's not. I get a lot of gigs from other drummers if they can't do something. Like if somebody
Yeah.
calls me for a gig, I mean even locally, and I can't do it, you know, unless it's just somebody I don't like or something, I'm just going to say no. But there are gigs. If I can't do it, I'm going to say, can you try this person? Do you have this person's number? Let me give it to you. Let me give you their contact because it's just the right thing to do. They maybe they only know three or four drummers, or that they would be interested in, and one of these people not on the radar, and that sometimes can learn to a permanent, well-paying gig for somebody. It could be a corporate
Yes.
band around here where you just get into it, and it's the same thing. Most people, like if I need a bass player and I know a good bass player or guitarist, I'm gonna try to bring them into whatever I'm doing. It's somebody I'm comfortable working with, but it's these constant recommendations and word of mouth and opening
Yes.
up doors for people. We get comfortable with working with people because I've left gigs because of people that I didn't like working with. Getting to the point where maybe the money was good, but mentally it wasn't good for me.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know?
Speaking of which, I want to just ask you, imposter syndrome, and when you were on the phone to all of these amazing drummers, or you went to Dave Weckel's house,
Yeah.
was there any moments of, oh my God, this is
Oh,
insane? Or,
like, So the Dave Weckl thing was, I was doing a clinic in, I lived in New York, so I was doing, and I knew Dave and I'd met him, and we were slowly building a friendship. But he was with John DeChristopher, and they were standing aside the stage, and I was doing a clinic at Thoroughbred Music down here in Florida, where I live now, but I didn't, I was still in New York. And they watched me do this thing, and I had like this hybrid triggering kit, but with pads and stuff. And I took the tracks, it was early in the day, and I took the drum tracks out of a recording I did in New York City with this fusion kind of band with all odd times and weird spacey technical stuff, but kind of cool. And I played that stuff, and I did some drum solos. And after we played, John DeChristopher, who's the person who signed me to Zildjian initially, like 35 years ago. You know, I'm old. Anyway, and I was very young, so twofold. So he goes, Dave Weckl really digs that kid. So after the whole thing, you know, like after these events, so everyone goes out to dinner or some bar or whatever, and we're having, and I'm sitting at the bar with Dave Weckl having a beer. You know, it's like everybody else is there, but it's just me and Dave Weckl at the bar drinking, and we're talking about this kid and everything. And then he's like, yeah, man, I definitely like to check these out. So I give him the number of the, you know, people in Sweden and the people that, you know, in the US office. And I make that contact, and I kind of, you know, so now I'm the person making the contact between them, and he says he's interested, but he wants me to fly out to his house and show him how, because this stuff had like different, you know, now it's a lot of companies doing it, but back then they were probably the only company where even with a trigger, you could have like 8 different zones from the center, and in each one of those zones, you have different dynamics. It wasn't using like MIDI, which most people were, it was using current. So, I mean, they were very, like you could hold a pad and pitch bend and be like, do, 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 with a real drum head. It was kind of cool stuff. So I go over there, and I remember being like, what do I'm going to Dave Weckl's house. Like I'd never been to his house before. So it's like, what do I bring? Like bring a bottle of wine? I don't know. I don't want, I'm going to curse now, excuse me, but I'm going to curse now, but I'm like, what fucking kind of wine do I like? I don't know what he likes. So I'm like, I don't know what I bought. Like I can't buy a candle, like whatever it was. I'm like, oh, his house. Like just taught by my parents, you go to somebody's house, you bring something, you bring a cake or whatever. So I go over there, and first we're in his kitchen. He's like, hey man, you want espresso? I'm like, yeah. He goes, cappuccino or espresso? And I'm like, whatever you're having, you know. And I'm like looking around, and I'm like in his living room. He's got these cool speakers, like surround sound, and like looking at art on the wall, and I'm just sitting there, and his wife comes out, you know, at the time, the one he was met, and I'm going, Dave Weckl's out. He's making me like a cappuccino. And it is surreal, because still to this day, I have a friend, Tom Knight, who played with the band TLC, and we both lived in Atlanta. And this guy played arenas and stadiums, and we went out to lunch one day, and we're talking about that. We actually called Dave on FaceTime, and I'm just skipping ahead, but we were both like, we're still such fanboys that we're like 12 years old if we talk to him. It's like not, you know, and Tom has a close, like David stayed at his house and stuff, but we're still like calling him up on FaceTime, like, God, you know, like, by golly, you know, it's, but again, that was a surreal experience. And anyway, so now we go into the studio, you know, it's his garage converted into a real recording studio, a sound booth and glass, and we're talking, we unpack this stuff that they had sent him, we're setting it up, and I go into the sound room where it's the Dave Weckl set, you know, with like it's the Dave Weckl set. And he's like, go ahead. So he's in the control room. He's like, go on there, put on the cans. So I put them on. He's like, go ahead and play. So, and I played, he's seen me play. I mean, he knew me. He had already, you know, I'm already with Zildjian and Yamaha and stuff that he kind of helped make happen. But it's different. It's something very different when he's sitting there in his control room, looking at you, waiting for you to play, so he can hear sounds. Like, and you're like, what do you play? What do you?
And it's his kit, you know.
Like when you're gonna play a song, you're gonna play a songo, like you're gonna play a shuffle. I still to this day I have no idea what I played. I played some soloing, like one of but we did this stuff, and we were working on the bass drum, triggering like the different zones and stuff like that. but it was all that was that imposter syndrome. Like, I don't belong. I'm not a peer of this person. Like, you still, and that's what it all comes down to. And this is one of the most important things I can say to anyone today. Even like all these girls I teach, okay, like who are around the same age, like they all know each other. That's how I went from like one to to more than 50% of my teaching thing, is that this is all about peers. But people, you realize, no one's judging you if you're not playing the same exact gigs as you. You can still be very good friends with somebody and a peer. So I could be a peer to Dave Weckl, or Jonathan Moffat, and they never like, well, I got the bigger gig, or maybe a slightly bigger house, or there's, it's not about that. They just this mutual respect. They see you and your talent for what you can do, and they respect that, and they are a friend, and they understand we go through the same challenges and practicing, and they can ask you questions about how do you. I remember I was doing all metric modulation stuff, and Dave's like, "Yeah, man, I got to work on that stuff." And like 6 months later, he's like 10 times better at me doing that, whatever it was. But he's just got that gift. He's going to set his mind on. I've probably never met anybody who has that laser beam focus like him if he wants to learn something, and that's he's got that gift. But it's important to remember that a lot of these people will see you the same way you see them. It's not they're not going to judge you. It's hard. It's hard to kind of grasp, and when that starts happening, because it happens slowly. You just build a friendship with somebody, and then when you go to their house, you see things are the same. I went to Nico McBrain's house once, and same thing with this stuff for a week, and his wife's like, "You two idiots going to take off your shoes?" Like tracking. I mean, there's other stories, but same thing. Like, I got to go to Nico McBrain's house for a week, and we're hanging out and driving around, going out, and it wasn't like I'm an Iron Maiden. I mean, it was like no, it was just like he's telling me, he's like, I'd love to be in a jazz band. I remember like having this conversation. I'd love like the Nico McBrain big band or something. And it
Yeah.
was same thing was it like then I was in New York, he was here down in Florida, and I fly down, and he took me on the way home, he took me to the wrong airport because I came into one airport and I was living, and we're just in his car, he's got a Jag with, convertible, and we're laughing. I was like, all right, I guess I'll leave later if I can get on a flight. He left his car and was running like where you're not supposed to park. He left his car and grabbed one of my bags and was running with me. He's like, oh, don't leave
Oh,
it. Yeah, but I'm just saying it's just um, things I never saw happening. And I'm not saying that because I, play. It's, what it's about? It's about like being in a band or anything. Those of us that we do know that tour a lot always say, it's about the hang sometimes. It's about who you are as a person, and people want to be around you and make them laugh and know when to step back and give people their space. And, like um, Jake Somers, who we're friends with, was just doing his thing at PASIC. And they were talking about like, people, maybe they just got a little bit of a tiff with their girlfriend or wife or something like that, or a woman got it, and they need a little space, or maybe they want to talk about it. You play a 2-hour show. There's those other 22 hours a day of traveling and hanging, and the show is the small part. You're with
exactly.
these people a long time, and you also know that you can really get on somebody's nerve, or they can get on your nerve.
That's it. I,
So.
I think as well that should be spoken about a bit more. So really students know what they're getting into, or any young drummer knows what they're going to get into, because touring can be really lonely. It can be a bit isolating, and you got to make sure you're looking after yourself and
Right,
you're keeping fit, like all of the things that we might take for granted. But you might end up touring, and then you're like, huh, is this it? Because then you're just waiting for the show,
right,
and then it can turn into something else. And I just think that needs to be talked about a lot more. Like,
right.
this is what you need to prepare for. You need to be a nice person. You need to be able to get on with people, and you need to be ready to just wait around for a whole lot of time and to
Hmm.
travel a lot. And then this is going to be your life for a long time. So are
Sure.
you okay with that? Yes or no?
Right.
No?
Yeah. Well, exactly. And I mean, one of the things that we talked about last time as well when it comes to this is, I mean, anyone that wants a career, even the people that we do know tour, most people have multiple revenue streams of income. They're not just touring. Touring for many people doesn't pay what it paid years ago, from competition and centralized and bigger corporations being involved. And, not that it's not a good career or that you can't have this nice life from it, but most people I know, and it doesn't all have to be within drumming. I know people
Mm.
who, I know somebody very well that for decades now, who plays with a very big band. I'm not going to, but he has his real estate license and he does real estate and he teaches. He has so I know people that have different sales things that they develop. Most people do. Most people aren't only like, well, I'm just waiting for my tour. There's other, and it could be industry related. It could be writing books. It could be writing articles. It could be teaching. It could be, and then I know people who have totally separate outside sources of income that have nothing to do with drumming. I remember Dom at one point saying he and his brothers were building homes. And there was another teacher who's like, "Oh, so you're a real estate developer, you're not really drumming." Like that's the wrong attitude, dude.
Oh,
Like we're
100%.
human beings, we have kids. You know what my kid likes? Air Jordans. So, you know, and like my dad, now this is important. It's funny, but so he's 12 years old. He
It's
likes Air
true.
Jordans.
It's
But
true.
but so here, my dad had a nice career. He was international finance and banking, and not that I do that, but I want my kid to have that. I want my kid to stay at a nice resort. I want my kid. I want what you want for your kids. I want them to have, not spoil, but I want to be able to look him in the eye. If he asks me for, a $20,000 grand piano, or, sorry. Yeah, but in general, I want him to have the kind of life that I did, okay?
Mhm.
Where I can provide, like if he wants to go to arts camp in the summer, it's not an issue. You're going, buddy. And if it's teaching and gigs and everything else I do within the industry where I have money coming. So here where I live, things slow down in the summer, as far as gigs. It's
Mm.
hot. The wealthy leave, and then they come back. So now's the busy season. They're here for throughout the winter, and you get very busy. Um, so I have other sources. I've also worked other jobs when I've needed to. When I've moved right to an area, and I'm like, okay, because I've moved several times through life, and I'm like, okay, and I wasn't just now I teach online exclusively. If you live around the corner from me, we're jumping on online. We're this is my house, and this is my I like that's just the way I do it. So,
Yeah.
um, but like that I didn't always have that. So if I moved to a new area. I usually found gigs for like I always knew musicians in different areas. So usually if I was moving somewhere, I jumped into gigs like immediately. I like within a day.
Yeah.
But I had set that up. I had gone back and forth. Building teaching, I usually would have to go to a music store or something. So I worked at Target. There are things I do. I'm not afraid to talk about. I'm not embarrassed because this is one of the most important things I can ever tell anyone. If you told me that you were working at a shoe store, you're still the same drummer. You're still this amazing drummer. I don't see you as, oh, she's got to work at a shoe. And there are too many musicians I know who have struggled through life. I know a 62-year-old who is struggling in life, has nothing, you know, and he's waiting for that call. He's waiting for that big gig. He lives in one of the biggest music cities in life, and he's near retirement age. Not that you ever really retire from this, you still,
Yeah.
gig, but he's getting. I'm saying like we're over there if you call it a pension, over here if you call it Social Security. Like I don't even know if it qualifies. Like he's gone through life just waiting and waiting and waiting and refusing to get some other source of income because if I told somebody I'm working at Target, do you think I suck at this all of a sudden, my drums? No, I'm still the
No.
same exact drummer. Some of the best musicians I know have completely different career. I know doctors who wipe me on the floor with like a mop who are better drummers than I am. I'm not kidding, you know? And sometimes like the thought of my son doing this. Like he can do whatever he wants. I want him. He's a smart kid. He can do whatever he wants. If he wants to do this, I'm going to support him. If he wants to become a doctor or clean school buildings, I'm going to support him. But
Yeah.
he loves doing this, and he loves drawing. He loves all things art. He loves painting. I want him to keep doing that for the rest of his life. And he could probably gig as much as I'll tell this to anyone. You can gig as much as I do and have a completely independent career. I teach. If I didn't teach,
Yes.
I would do something else because I want to, if something breaks in my car, I want to be able to fix it. If I need to buy a new
Yes.
car, I always say, Rich Redmond came down here to do a clinic last year or 2 years ago. And when I picked him up at the airport, we were talking about how do you define making it? It's a really tough question. What's making it to you? Like what would you say?
I feel like it has changed, but if I had to give an answer now,
Mhm.
being able to have, I think, a sense of freedom. So being
Mhm.
able to provide for myself and my girls,
Yes.
and happiness, feeling joy 90% of the time, I
No,
guess.
exactly. No, but that's perfect. Like if you could do this, like he had said, like buying a house, being able to buy your first house, and I set the bar much lower. It's funny on the same line, but I said my one of my best friends in the world is Mike Mallon, and we always he was the drummer to Google Dolls for like 20 years and played with Tang. You talk over 70, and we talk every day in chat. And we came up with this a long time ago. I said being able to buy 4 new tires for your car and not sweat it, like having just being able to walk, like being this adult, like I need new tires and okay. And it's nothing, like it's not going to affect your life in any way. Like it's just what nobody wants to spend, $1,000 on 4 new tires or more, but being able to do that, and it's kind of a silly, goofy answer, but it was like there's that part in your life where it's like, oh my God, like this is gonna, I guess I'm not doing this, or I'm not gonna be able to eat this week, or like if it's gonna
Yes.
really cause you harm, then maybe you should really, really, really think about doing like something to enhance your income, part-time, full-time. I just know people stubbornly who are afraid to be seen
Yeah.
doing anything else. I do. Like I
Yeah.
said, this one person, I know several, and they're really struggling their way through life, and they're past that point where they don't have family. I mean, they're like, and some do, and some are, it's sad to watch from afar because it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
And I've heard these people sometimes say, I need money, I need gigs, I need this, I need jobs. I just saw something the other day from the same person, and people have tried to coach him, and people have tried to counsel him, and stubbornly he's afraid to be seen that way. And then mentally there could be something, detachment, but I do try to encourage everyone. Okay, most
Yeah.
of my lessons are not just about playing drums, because most of my students really want this. If you're going to pay the money it costs to study with me, you either have deep pockets, your parents have. I'm not cheap, but I worked a long time to get to
Yeah.
where I am. So, but most want to do this for a career, and we talk about that. We talk. And all the stuff we're talking about today, and I just like be prepared to grab for things that you don't expect, to grab income from every direction.
Yes.
Because every gig you have, very few people stay in a gig for 20 years. Like
Exactly.
this is not, most people now, if you watch the Rick Beato thing he was talking about, this came up the other day at PASIC, and I've had this discussion. So if 20 years ago, the majority of, they're gonna say streaming, but let's say CD sales, record sales. So if 50 or 60% of them were bands, well, these days, that's almost everything is solo artists. Almost everything. I know in metal is more bands and this and that, but it's like most people go out and work for solo artists, and most solo artists, you know, are going to hire different musicians. It's very rare, that they're just going to keep John Mayer. If you get that gig, you're not staying forever in most cases.
Yeah.
Like he likes bringing in different people. That's part of his creative process. I'm going to throw this out at you, and let's get a different flavor than I did on the last record. I'm changing directions. Some people, sure, have tours that they'll stay with one person for a very long time, a comfortable working relationship, but that's not the case. And if you have a gig, you have to be prepared that it might end.
Yeah.
And I've seen people make some very stupid financial decisions and spend money thinking that there'd still be money coming in a year or two on that same level and find themselves in bankruptcy, you know?
Oh,
You know?
that's tough. And I think it comes down to the mindset of, I think, I'm owed something or it's not my fault. Like, I need gigs. Give me a gig. I don't have any gigs. Da 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 da.
Right.
And it's putting the blame on not yourself.
Oh my God,
And
you just nailed this one person I'm talking about. You did. Yeah.
yeah, and but I see it all around, and I also feel like I many years ago I was in a similar boat where I have had a bajillion jobs, I really have, but there was one
Yeah.
point where I was doing a lot of touring, and then in between tours I didn't work that hard. Like I was a bit rubbish. Maybe I was
Mhm.
had a boyfriend who wasn't good influence or whatever. And
Sure.
then the discomfort then of not being able to pay for myself at a restaurant is so painful. It's
Right.
like, hold on. Really what matters most? Is it the fact that you are drumming and this is the only way you're going to earn? Or do you
Right.
actually want to do stuff and
Mhm.
feel pride in yourself that you can look after yourself and other people? And I just think you just need to take action and not make excuses because guess what? The phone is probably not going to ring. You need
Yeah.
to pick up the phone and call people and make some stuff happen. Just like stop
Sure.
waiting. No one's going to save you. No?
Yep. But yeah, exactly. And in some of these big music towns, same like I can go back to this person, or I know other people in that town too, who are if you're doing a gig and you've been jumping around doing all these gigs, if you move anywhere, you get to know the players. So when I was playing around New York City, I got to the point where I was doing so many gigs with so many people, I like overloaded myself because I got the advice, and this is good when you're young. Take every gig. Matter of fact, I
Mm,
remember Dave Weckl saying, take every gig you get, if it's $50, it's better to be out gigging than it is to be home. And if you're not out gigging on a certain night, go support the other musicians and get to know them. And that worked to the point.
yeah.
So I was playing weddings, I was doing rock gigs, I was doing jazz. I mean, I'd have swing stuff, chart reading with a trio, just like way over my head, just like wow, like just say yes to everything. Until all of a sudden I got to the point where, and I always had my teaching, I was burning out. But if you get to the point where you're playing with these people and you're barely surviving and you're getting older, and a lot of people you'll play with they have graduated to a theater or arena or stadium tours. Well, most of those people at some point they're gonna need a drummer. Yeah, at some point in their life, hey man, this one's got picked up and they're going out with this person. Who can we get? And if your name never comes up, you need to just do some solo. It doesn't mean that you can't keep gigging. It just means that at some point, like you said, you've got to be able to pay for food. You've got to be able to. You can't do GoFundMe's every time there's a
Oh,
crisis in your life. And I know people like that. Um, and it's sad to watch. Like I said, that the biggest part, and I'll always keep saying this over and repeating it over and over and over, is nobody's ever going to judge you for your income source. And again, if I told everybody out there, I'm not saying I'm great, I'm not saying I suck, I am what I am, and people know who I am, and they can judge me however. I'm okay with that. Not everybody in the world needs to like me. I'm old enough to know that. But people do. Some do. But as far as my playing abilities here are going to be the same, and if tomorrow we jump back on another one of these, and if I say, I decided to take an executive position at FedEx, Federal Express, I'm going to go
yeah.
work for them. They gave me account rep, pays me a nice thing, gives me a pension. I've got all this stock investments and stuff they're going to give me. I don't think one student would drop out, and I don't think one person would choose not to give me a gig. I know some brilliant musicians have completely independent careers,
It's
and play in theaters and stuff, so
yeah,
it's a really it's a really important thing, that you can't always tie a career and income solely based on holding sticks in your hand, you
Yes,
know?
and sometimes that's actually for the best because I know a lot of people who that is their career, but also it can get really stressful or they get resentful over students. So, say for example, I don't know too many of these people, but you meet the odd character who's a teacher and they've been teaching a long time and they're like grumpy about it. Like
Mhm.
they're done. They don't really want to be doing it anymore, but they're
Right.
still just doing it because I don't know. I think they're just too stubborn, or they feel like, well, this is it now. I have to do this. And it puts a lot of pressure. And I think sometimes you want to feel good playing the drums. And so sometimes having a career that's completely separate is actually a gift.
Yeah, and you know what, like in the teaching thing, I always say this: don't teach unless you really want to teach kids and
Yes.
people and stuff. Like I do a lot of damage control. Like I get students, who were taught things wrong and by somebody not qualified, maybe to have been teaching. And that's a whole process, but somebody will just say, well, it's a good source of income. Sure, it is and can be, but don't really teach like just based upon, there should be something inside you that wants to pass on the time and knowledge that you've gained, time you put in, knowledge that you've gained and share it with others. I think everyone should share things, but that doesn't mean you have to put on the teacher cap and just, um, like I said, unless you want to help somebody, because that's what this is about. It's about helping. It's about growth. It's about sharing. Yeah,
Yes. Yes. I've had some horror stories from campers who have come to a weekend with me, and it's scary. It's like,
mhm.
oh, I have had to say, I'm really sorry on behalf of all educators who
Yeah,
shouldn't have had that happen. And
yeah.
yeah, it's shocking.
I,
I
I,
feel
I
like we
literally
have
had
to want to do it.
I had a student recently who told me about the teacher that had them put ankle weights on their arms to work on playing to build the muscles in their arms. I'm like, that's no, yeah, and they did that. They've been doing that for years. They spent some time, not just something that they do daily, but it was something they had heard like 10 years ago with the teacher they were working with at the time, and they're in their late 20s now. So if they heard it at 16 or 17, they practicing this stuff to. I'm like, sounds like a good workout. Seems a little painful to me, but nothing to do with drums. Maybe I would just put them on and try to get some tone.
Oh, yeah.
But it's certainly not going to help your drumming. There's no benefit. There's these crazy things out there. One of the things that, and I think I mentioned to you last time, is my dad, who was not a musician, but very good at business, told me to treat this like a business. On the way up, I went to Berklee College of Music, on a scholarship, and on the way driving from New York to Boston, he said, and I passed this on, and it's one of the most valuable pieces of advice this man ever gave me outside of kindness and love and everything. He said, you are your own CEO. Nobody's going to care about the Dave Stark business or Dave Stark Corporation more than Dave Stark. And he goes, you could be in a big band, like in a big band setting or whatever, but you need to be your own CEO, CFO, Chief Financial Officer, your own administrative assistant, and do your own work as far as email, letters and correspondence. You have to be your own janitor. You have to clean up and take care and maintain things like you need to do all this stuff, because no matter what anybody promises you, they're going to care about their own career and their own livelihood more than yours, no matter what situation. And there were bad situations I found myself in with side contract. Like everyone has that weird thing when they're younger and you get your first kind of contract. And I was in bands where it was like, right, you're a band member. Now you're a hired gun. So now I go back to a lawyer and I'm like, okay, now I got to watch out for myself. And fine, you guys owe me $500 rehearsal or something stupid or whatever it was. And I had lawyers battling over all this crap, which started out. And now people literally have there's record company lawyers and there's management lawyers. And I'm like, well, if I'm a hired gun and you want me to show up, what am I getting paid for next Tuesday? Now there's no more Dave Stark just showing up for free, buddy. I'm a hired gun. You got to pay me. I'm not just on gigs. So, but I had to learn that side of the business. And I'm not saying it was the biggest thing. It was just like one of those record deals that ended up falling apart. And you know why it fell apart? Because of that.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
everyone started fighting. And I remember trying to do a Hail Mary and saying, dudes, we've got a pie right here, okay? And and basically it was just all the ingredients were put in, and we've got a record company, but you guys are divvying up the money to seeing who's getting how much of a slice, because it was like three of them were all of a sudden, we're the band, and you were the bass player. There was five of us total. You're the bass player and our hired guns. We write all the stuff. So okay, so like I said, but I remember going, the thing's not in the oven. Like, you got the money offered for us to go record, but we haven't recorded anything because everyone's fighting about money. Let's just go make
Yes.
the record type of thing.
Yes. Oh
You
God, I
know?
relate so much. One band I was in, it ended for similar reasons. Everyone was discussing splits, money. We didn't agree. And it was like, well, there was no money there anyway.
Yeah.
There was no money. No one had offered us anything. And we couldn't even, you know, join together and go, listen, we're a band, it's equal. It was just got all really petty. And
Yeah.
it's a shame. So many deaths of bands have been through that. Money.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Like, there's stuff that I played on when I was in New York that like that almost, it was like things I involved a lot of my time in. And sometimes, again, sometimes I started getting smart enough to say, I need to be paid. Like, if I'm showing up, I need to be paid. Like the day in the studio, this is not going to be any more about, like, if you want to hire me, I don't care if it was $200 for 8 hours or whatever it was of my day, not even including learning the tunes or this and that. But
Hmm.
I got to the point in like my late 20s where it was like, you're going to have to pay me. I'm cool with not being in your band. This is like, I had a conversation with certain people, even later. There was a band when I first came down to Florida, and we were playing all over, and we did one gig, and the rules changed after the gig. Well, oh, we were playing for the door, and like I'm like, this place was packed, and they tried to give me like $70, which is like, and I was like, I drove there. It was in Orlando,
Oh,
and like Orlando's
no.
where Disney and all that stuff is, and I was like, I had paid for parking. It was all, and this is 10 years ago. I remember going, this is your dream. This isn't my dream. Like, you guys need to pay me. I like anything going forward. I'm like, I need $400 a gig. No matter, I don't care if you lose money. If you want Dave Stark to play for you, it's $400 a show. If
Yeah.
it's X amount of miles, it's up to 600. If we go a distance, if there's rehearsals from now on, I'm like, I need X. I started throwing numbers out at them, and I was like, or just get another drummer. But I learned that again through. I always go back to my father, and it was back in my late 20s where I just started saying, I'm doing all these sessions for people based upon money that really hasn't arrived yet. And I'm
Yes.
dedicating my time, and I'm shifting students around. I was teaching like 60 students a week. That's a lot. I was
Oh,
playing club date bands, weddings, which were, both of those were very good sources of income.
yeah.
So very good. I was making more, like a little bit out of college, and a lot of friends who got out and started. I'm not saying that but it was like, it was good income. So I didn't mind doing the jazz gig for almost no money because I had the gigs that paid really well. And a lot of
Yeah.
people do that in places like New York. And you can go play the gig for nothing, with jazz or something that you want to do. You can take on a funk gig and just have fun with your superior musician friends, that you like playing with, because you have this other stuff. But it
Yes.
started getting to the point where people wanted me to do stuff. And I don't remember what it was, but I just one day, like walking down the street, leaving something and feeling frustrated, and I just said, I used those words to myself. I have to stop getting involved with people chasing their dreams and getting caught up in them. My
Yes.
eyes would be bright. I'm like, oh my God, because I mean, it was legit. Sometimes they had real record company stuff going on, but in most cases, those things didn't work out. Most cases of that stuff didn't work out. I mean, for most people that I know, I always say, like, some type of record deal that blows up for a band is like winning the lottery. Your odds are the same,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
agree. I agree. And I think at some point it's difficult, isn't it? Because you're trying to do this, you're trying to do all the gigs, and then you're trying to make friends and help people out. I think as drummers, yes, I'm going to say this, but we're
Yeah,
mostly pretty nice, decent people. And so we want to help and we want to get involved and we want to go along with the dream and the enthusiasm. But then after a certain time, you're like, you know what? It's not paying.
right.
And like you said, you have to say, you know what, this is your dream, and
Yep,
I gotta look after me because if I don't look after me, like your dad gave very
sure.
good advice, I got to, you
Yeah,
know.
and I don't know how much time we have into this, or I'm not paying attention to the clock, but um, it was shortly after that that I made peace, and by saying that, I made peace with the fact that I was earning a living playing and teaching, and it was like, I'm like, this is good. And same thing, I looked at it all in a whole. I've got the respect from my peers because by that stage in my life I was already done to like going to Dave Weckel's house and working with different drummer from Jonathan Moffat or whoever else, or Nico, like all the stuff had already happened. So I was in my late
Yeah.
20s, by then. And I just said, this is cool. Like, I don't need, if the stadium thing never happens, I'm okay. Like,
Yes.
and I've got the place in so big, and I've been able to, jump on, here and there and whatever else. I mean, I've gotten that, and it's always been cool. Maybe made it that much more special or something like that, and
Yeah.
doing a lot of the bigger things over the years. And there's been quite a few, but something happened with me that I finally realized I was supporting myself doing this. I owned a condominium in New York. I was married, had a condominium, we had cars, we got, like we were
Yeah.
living life. We could take a vacation and buy stuff and go to a store and buy clothes, and I was like, this is all pretty cool. And like I said, I'd see these other people I knew, and I realized they weren't like, who's Dave Stuck? You're not one of us. No, we were just friends, and just there was mutual respect, and people in the industry and at companies, and just there was this whole, so for anyone again who wants a career, you can do this. And like I said, don't be afraid of other income when you need. um, Definitely don't be afraid of that, but learn at some point that just having all of it. And there's plenty of players who are great players that you and I, they might do stuff, and we completely respect them. We lots of them, who have completely separate careers, or maybe careers, maybe they're not playing the stadium shows, and we love them and respect them and admire them and consider them friends, or want to be around them. They inspire us, and it
Mm.
doesn't have to be through social media. It doesn't have to be follower count, because very few people get, 500,000 followers and make money, just from
Exactly.
that, unless it turns into something else, I mean, so that's the other thing to be a little bit aware of, just chasing that,
Yeah, exactly. Like look at your destination. Are you just chasing likes, followers? And it's pretty empty if you are. You've got to be trying to chase, hopefully, like a feeling of fulfillment and happiness. And I don't think you'll find that on social media. I think you can find
right.
community,
Oh,
and that's it.
there's definitely a difference in giving a lesson and seeing someone smile and get it, or as opposed to, like, if I can post a little sticking thing, and I could read the comments or something, but there's that magic community. And same thing on a gig. You're always going to feel happier
Yes.
on a gig than reading your comments afterwards. It's not,
Yes.
I'm not saying don't use it, but I'll say that because I have a lot of people that hit me up for endorsements because they know I work with different companies, and they know I even work with the other companies. Like I said, if I can open up a door or make, like here, so and so meet so and so,
Yes.
I do that. But I try to say, if you just have a lot of followers, and maybe you're good, maybe you're not, like some of this stuff, like this pie symbols, right? Like, it's product placement. Like,
Yeah.
sure, company wants, so it's like watching a movie and seeing that can of Coca-Cola
Yes.
over here in the background. You know, like sure you're being used, but are you really building a relationship with these companies? Is there a give and take? What are you doing for them besides you're creating content? That's great. You're getting followers and comments and likes and you know whatever else. But I'm always going to enjoy more doing a gig and playing music and watching people do whatever they do, you know, for us. And same thing, if it's I could create content every day. It'd be so easy for me to show a different sticking pattern every day. And I don't care, I'll give away everything I have. You still have to go through it and learn it, and that's cool, you know. But it's very different when I can look at somebody and just say, we need to kind of adjust and we need to do this and let's go through this and seeing them get it and just like when I studied with Dom and we would just there were lessons where we never picked up a stick. A lot of lessons like that. Maybe half of them. No, we talked. Was it therapy? No, but I was motivated and we
Yeah.
laughed and just, you know, I like if anything, maybe I did practice more or I changed my
Mm.
attitude on something. Um, so you know, it's a different way of teaching. It's not just, oh, let's do this sticking pattern. Let's do this sticking pattern. Let's, you know,
That's
it's
right. It's a process and it's learning. It's so cliche, but it's a journey together. And I think sometimes with socials, it just exacerbates this quick fix thing.
I can only imagine how much laughter there is in your camps.
Oh, so much.
Yeah, yeah. People are having a good time. I mean, you're part of what you're selling is an emotion. You know, it's an
Absolutely.
emotional
It's a
collection.
feeling. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
you
feeling.
know,
That's what
it's
they
not
want.
about the struggle. Even when someone's struggling and they can't get it, we laugh about it. You know,
Yes. And we're
you know,
together, so you're not
yeah,
alone. And I think that's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
It's bonding with others. That is it.
All right. And what's all this about anyway? More than anything,
Yeah.
emotion. What made us as little kids? How old were you when you started playing?
I was 16. I wanted to
Okay,
play before then, but I wasn't
right.
allowed.
Right. But there was an emotional, you wanted to. There was an
Yes.
emotional connection. There was something in your brain gravitating towards us and wanting to do it. And then that feeling like you're flying, you know, when you start doing it, you know, I always say. But you know, and we got into this because of an emotional connection with music that we had, that we wanted to participate, we wanted to create, you know, and I
Yes.
never lose sight of that. And I would
Yes.
walk away from every dollar and go do something different just to keep that going if this ever becomes too much of a chasing. You know,
Yes.
this is not the easiest life. And for those that ask me, as my son delves into music sometimes, you know, like I kind of brought up earlier, do I want this for him? Only if he wants it. I know because I know what this is like. I am my own CEO. If I
Yes.
don't do, if I don't stay on top of this, it falls apart. It will crash. You know,
Exactly. When you're sick or something, it's
yeah.
so hard.
I've done this long enough to know that if I don't have any work booked in my calendar, right? Because what this becomes when you start doing this for career, your calendar. It's filling up lesson times and dates, it's filling up gigs, it's filling up clinics, it's doing an article for somebody or wherever, like these different things are. And if it's right now, if it's November, and I look towards, say, next August or next November, and I see one thing that I've gotten there. I see PASIC next November. Oh, I got PASIC. I'm doing next November. I'm going there again. Like, I've been doing it long enough to know it will fill up, but there's work to do. Like I need to
Yes.
kind of stay and take care of myself and just, um, as well and be healthy and be able to, but I truly am my own CEO and there's nothing wrong with, sometimes that, you could say, maybe I should have gone to medical school and just those weekly, bi-weekly or monthly checks just coming in would have been the easier path and I could still gig on the weekends and play, but like I said, it's you got to really want, just to understand it's a great life, but that own CEO thing really is it. This is a business. You are your own one person corporation, so
Boom. That's the perfect
yeah,
place to end.
yes, exactly.